I am Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed. Yeah, it's the Wednesday show, and he's back by popular demand, folks. I'm talking about Mr. Chris Shaffer. How you doing, Chris?
Well, apparently there's thundering applause, so I must be doing great.
Chris, do you recognize that song?
I got to go with REO Speedwagon, Riding the Storm Out.
Yeah.
Or Riding the Storm. What's the actual? Yeah, riding the storm out.
Yeah. And you look, it's that time of year. This song has, kind of a double meaning. Everything reminds me of a song. It's been really cold since we got back from Louisiana for Thanksgiving. I've been having a fireplace on in my office nonstop while I'm working down here. And I feel like people who pay attention to this podcast, they're riding the storm out, right? It's holiday time. Yes, I always say it's not what you eat between Christmas and New Year's that counts. It's what you eat between, it's not what you eat between Christmas and New Year's. It's what you eat between New Year's and Christmas. I can't remember my own meme. Anyway, but here we are. We're in holiday time, right? And I know for one, there was some crap eating that went on in my life, and I was able to keep it to very contained to one day, right? And I didn't really blow it out. Well, now I'm lying. I didn't keep it to one day. I kept it pretty much to one meal. And believe it or not, that meal happened not on Thanksgiving, but the next day. I'll explain in a minute. But yeah, driving back to Virginia from Louisiana, that's a 15-hour drive. When I got back and got out of the car, of course, you're sitting there for 15 hours. You're going to have some pooling of something in your ankles and your feet. When I got in bed that night, I looked down at my ankles and I could barely see them. And that was one meal. And when I say I blew it out for that one meal, I blew it out. Okay. So the struggle is real. I know what people go through. I know what they're going through this time of year, right? Because I dealt with it myself. Now, I don't know, do people know where you live? Do we talk about you or do we leave that out of it?
I don't know. I'm sure we've mentioned it at some point.
Do you care?
No. What are they going to do? Come find me?
Yeah, we hate you. Chris is an American, but he lives abroad. He lives over in Colombia with his beautiful fiancé. Is it fiancé? Yeah, you guys made it official. And he did. So my question to you is, did you do Thanksgiving? Because your soon-to-be wife doesn't even come from Colombia, right? She comes from a different country where Thanksgiving is not even celebrated at all. So do you explain Thanksgiving and go out and buy, I guess, a breast of turkey? Because it's not like you're going to get a bunch of people over. What happens for you? Let's talk about you first.
So this is the first year we've actually done it. And it's because I needed a break from everything that we've been doing. And I knew that if I did Thanksgiving in air quotes, that it would involve me being in the kitchen for several hours, which means I'm not in front of my computer, which is essentially where I've lived for the last year. And so we did. Turkey's not really common here. I mean, you can find it and you can get turkey lunch meat. But I said, you know what? I like turkey. I like turkey once a year, but if I can't find it, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that different from chicken. So I'll just do a chicken in the Thanksgiving style, right? So all of the herbs and spices that would go on there. I wet brined a chicken for a day, and then we did that. Nothing really off the rails. I did make stuffing balls because that's, she always wants to know the Shaffer family traditions, and that's one of the foods that we do. And it's one of the few like non-NSNG things that I know I can make and not eat all of. If I make a pie, I'm going to eat a pie, right? You and I have had this conversation. Right. I'm going to end up eating the pie, or she's going to end up eating the pie. And it's really just the two of us for something like that. So we tried to keep it fairly clean and went off the rails with a little bit of bread, right? Made some stuffing balls and that kind of stuff. But yeah, just a little baby version of it, and then explained, both the Pilgrims and Indians version and the George Washington version, and said, hey, it's just a day about reflection. And so we had a couple conversations about the things that we're grateful for and the things that we want to be more conscious of being grateful for in 2025. And that was pretty much it.
Good. On the other hand, I went to Louisiana, Cajun country, learned something about my family. As you may or may not know, I'm not a big fan of turkey. Now, if I had a turkey leg, I ain't turning it down, right? I'm going to eat it.
I'm exactly the same way. Yeah.
But turkey, as a matter of fact, last year at my brother's house, the same brother, his son did the deep fried turkey, right? And he seasoned it really well and he injected it really well. That was one of the few times where I went, okay, this isn't half bad as turkey goes.
What did he deep fry it in? Because you may have seen, and I don't know if you saw this news,
The RFK thing.
The new Health and Human Services Director deep fried a turkey for Thanksgiving in beef tallow and set everybody off over the weekend. But what did he fry it in? Because that, if you're frying it in seed oils, that's not all that great either.
Yeah, all right. So he did fry it in seed oils, but the thing people need to understand about turkey is the oil is so hot that it doesn't really seep into the meat. It basically keeps the moisture in the turkey. It's not like the oil is penetrating the meat. So that's why I was okay with it. It wasn't like deep fried foods where you're eating. And as a matter of fact, I didn't even eat the skin part of it, knowing that it was seed oils, knowing what happens with me in seed oils. So I just stayed away from that. And I ate the interior part of the turkey last year and it was fine. This year, that same son now is married and living in Florida and was expecting a kid. So Serena and I said, look, we're going to come down, stay at your house and make Thanksgiving for everyone. But caveat, they could bring all the Italian fare over. That Italians have a much different Thanksgiving than the rest of the world. But we're not making a turkey. We're going to do a rib roast. And so we bought $350, $400 worth of rib roast to serve.
So that's what, like 5 pounds this year?
Yeah, like 2.5 pounds. It was a shit ton of meat. It took a huge ice chest to get it down there, right? And making sure that ice stayed cold and everything was right for that drive down there with all this money in the ice chest. But we got it there, and as it turns out, the baby came early, so the baby has been on the ground for 2 weeks, and my brother and his wife were still there, and I said, "Look, we have this rib roast coming. Don't buy a turkey." And they said, as it turns out, we don't really like turkey. And as it turns out, we asked most of the family, and they were like, "We don't, we come for the lasagna and the stuffed artichokes and all the Italian fare." It turns out no one really likes turkey in my family, right?
I don't think that's a very controversial take, though. I think the only person I know in my family that loved turkey was my dad's dad. And bless her heart, my grandmother, not a great cook, right?
Really?
But could make a turkey. So 2 times a year, they would have turkey, Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. And other than that, he got, whatever she wanted to make that day because she was the one that cooked and was not a chef, but could cook a mean turkey. And so that stayed a tradition, at least up until the point that they were no longer in the picture with my family. Now they just kind of do whatever. So I don't think you're alone in that.
Right. And look, I mean, I'll go as far as to say nothing looks more delectable than a turkey. It's all, brined and it's dark and it looks great and the whole thing. Nothing looks more delectable. It looks great, tastes bad, right? I don't know how else to put it. It's dry, it's chalky, I don't know. Turkey's just not my thing. So Serena made this rib roast to perfection and not a bit of it went to waste. It was almost all consumed. I was like going, shit, I hope some of this is left for tomorrow at lunch. Right. That's where I was. And I gorged myself on rib roast. Now, my mom made her stuffed artichoke. So we all had some stuffed artichokes. That was, I guess, my stuffing, if you will. And I ate just enough to make my mom happy. I didn't overdo it with that. Although with something like that, man, it's easy to go off the deep end. But I just had, several leaves of, the stuffing basically on an artichoke leaf and really enjoyed it. Can't lie. And did not have the lasagna. I did have it later on, because we eat lunch. We have Thanksgiving at around 1. So at around 7 or 8 o'clock, I had more rib roast that evening. And I tasted the lasagna because my sister-in-law made my mom's recipe. And yes, it did taste like my mom's lasagna. So I was but as you can tell, Chris, I kept it to a very low roar, right? I didn't let it get out of hand. Now, Friday, we were having a triple dinner. We went to Mike Anderson's Seafood, and it's a fried seafood place.
Is that your catfish place?
Yeah. And the party was threefold. It was my parents' anniversary. They wanted to my siblings and their wives wanted to celebrate that Serena and I, after 17 years, actually got married. This was our first time home since we got married. So it was a little get together for that. And it was also my younger brother's birthday. So my sister-in-law made a German chocolate cake and brought it to the restaurant. Homemade German chocolate cake. Right? Okay. So knowing that, I saw that cake getting in the car with us to go to Gonzalez. And I went, oh, I will be hitting some of that. It did not stop me from eating my catfish and onion rings. So between the seed oils, go on, Chris.
So, Vinny, you and I have talked about German chocolate cake before.
I
But
think
for
we
people
have,
who
yes.
don't, not that I want to put everybody into a craving zone, but for
Right.
people who don't know, what is German chocolate cake other than the best of most dessert worlds?
Yeah, it like when I was a kid, everything was German chocolate cake. The icing that goes in between the layers, you basically cook down condensed milk. You caramelize condensed milk. There's no chocolate in German chocolate cake. That's the crazy part, right? There's coconut. There's all this stuff, and of course, there's cake batter. So it's basically heavy sugar and grains, is what it comes down to. And I had that, and I had the seed oils in the fish, and of course in the onion rings. And boy, did I pay! I could barely go to bed that night, and I didn't even overdo it. Right? I ate it, but I didn't stuff myself. And then I had the cake, and by the time we drove the hour back to my brother's house, I knew I was fucked. There's no other way to put it. I knew I'd had it, but it was okay. Right? It's like I knew what I was doing. And driving back the next day, man, it was like I felt like my jeans were tight. It was like I know what people go through when they screw up. Right? So that was that, and we drove back, and that was my holiday. We did good on Thanksgiving. The very next day, I completely fucked up. Also, I wish I could remember the guy's name, but a guy wrote to me on X, and he goes, "Hey, man, I think you're in my neighborhood." I don't know if you can find that on X, Chris, and we can mention a guy's name. He goes, "Hey, I think you're in my neighborhood because I think I just saw you walking a dog." And I'm like, well, that's oddly specific. I did a lot of walking with our dog, Serena and me. And I was like, yeah, where did you think you see me? Where did you see me? He goes, in Louisiana. I said, more specific. He goes, Thibodeau. And I was like, yeah, that was me. I cannot tell a lie. Can't seem to find the guy's name, but I was
Cody
going to.
Grenier.
Yeah, that's it. That's the guy. I guess it's Cody Grenier is probably the way they pronounce it down there.
I'm
Um,
not nearly French or Creole enough to
but
to
yeah,
have guessed that.
a little shout out to Cody, who lives in my brother's neighborhood, I guess, down on the bayou, and which is always weird. Chris, this is always weird to me because my family have no idea what I do. And I saw that on X and I went, oh, this guy Cody lives in the neighborhood. Do you guys know Cody? And they were like, no, who's Cody? I said, Cody Grenier. He lives in your neighborhood. He saw me walking the dogs. He goes, well, how do you know him? I said, well, I don't know him. He's like, well, how did he recognize you? And it's like, I don't know. I have fans. I have movies out there. I have a book. I have a hit podcast. I don't know. And they're like, so this guy just happened to know, like they can't wrap their mind around that thought, right? Serena, they can wrap their mind around. She's in
I love
movies.
that you got recognized and not Serena. That's
Right.
that's how you know you've made it. Right.
She, you know what? She always says that in airports when people come up to me in airports, and she was like, "You get recognized." It's like, yeah, it's kind of how it works, I guess. You know, the right moment, the right time. And I never get recognized in airports for my look. People don't look at me and go, "Oh, that's Vinnie." When I'm at Starbucks ordering a coffee and heavy cream, because that's the only thing I'll have in an airport, they'll hear me ordering it and go, "Oh my God, I recognize your voice," that kind of thing. So yeah, that's always weird to me.
But
We
you're back now, and theoretically you're back on the rails, right?
oh
You're eating normally again, and
right back.
you didn't. And I think that I know you've talked about this basically every year between Thanksgiving and New Year, but it is the season of temptation. And I guess technically all year is the season of temptation, right? We go from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's, and then down in your neck of the woods, you have king cake and you have all of these things that start popping up
Right,
right after
right,
New
right.
Year.
Yeah.
And it's hard enough to stay low carb and avoid that stuff all year round, but it's even harder when you're surrounded by nothing but temptation, right? And the question that I have for you is not for you, but for a normal human being. Is there a way to avoid those temptations? Or is it
Well,
just the dose makes the poison, right? And it's
yeah.
okay to
Well,
indulge from time to time.
the dose does make the poison, but it's the temptation, right? So I have two things going for me. I want to get back into dietary ketosis as fast as possible because cancer almost killed me. So I have the motivation to not die before I'm supposed to die. So that's kind of a cheat sheet for me, knowing that I'm not going to waste a whole month. I'm not going to waste 1/12 of the year, blowing it out because I'm not going to get fat, right? I'm not going to, I might gain, let's say I gain 5 or 6 pounds over the next month. Whoop-de shit. I'm already too lean and I'm on the spinner, the bike, the this, to that, everything else. I'm not going to look bad. My motivation is I want to go another 17 plus years before I'm on chemo again. That's number one. Number two, and I think a lot of people don't have what I have, my good fortune, is Serena is in this with me, right? She wants to jump right back on. She went off the rails a little bit too over the holidays, and she wants to be right back on. Now, for her, it's a little more, I don't want to get fat. I'm a 63-year-old woman and I want to still fit into clothes I fit in when I was younger. So the motivation is a little different, but we have each other to bang that motivation off of. So I have two cheat sheets, cancer and Serena has me. She only has one. So we really help each other out. We really complement each other in that way. So yeah, that's how that works. Now, I did go to the gym 3 times while I was down there. I went on Wednesday when I got there. I got there, Tuesday night. Woke up Wednesday morning. I asked my brother, hey, is there a gym in town? Yes, there's there was the wellness center that's hooked to the hospital right there in Thibodeau, and beautiful facility. I think it costs like $100 a month to go there because I asked my brother, I said, well, that's a really nice gym, and he goes, yeah, it's expensive. They only charge me $10 per day. So, most gyms, if you go to any places, minimum 20, 25, sometimes 30, $10. So for $30, $10 a day, I went 3 times. I got a push, pull, and a leg workout in. And Serena and I, as Cody could tell you, we went for long walks with the dog. Now, with both of the dogs, one of the dogs, the puppy, the terrier, decided to go swimming in an area that had alligators, which is like, I kind of felt bad for the alligators because it's a terrier, but luckily it's like,
It's the fight they didn't know that they were going to have. Yeah.
I started chasing her down. Serena goes, don't chase her. I was like, Serena, she's going in that water. She's like, oh, she'll come out. I was like, yeah. So I was ready to jump in. Like I was there, come on. And she got out, but I was waiting for something to grab her ass and I was going to have to jump in. But yeah, that happened. But, we didn't see any gators. It's kind of cold, so you don't see as many. You never really see them when they're cold, when it's cold. So anyway.
So you just made me laugh. We're talking about Thanksgiving and overeating. You've heard the story. Well, you've seen the 3-legged dog, right? You've seen an eating.
Yeah.
First time in all of my years of owning a dog that a dog has gotten into the food when no one was paying attention.
Yeah.
25-pound dog ate 9 pounds of dog food.
Oh, God.
And I know that because it was a little more than half a brand new 15-pound bag.
Oh, God.
And it was on Thanksgiving, right? And so we're all sitting around with the same distended belly doing that thing. And 2-3 days later, everybody's feeling a little bit better. And it makes me laugh because he had the same reaction on that day as pretty much everybody listening to this podcast that went off the rails, right? In his case, it's just overeating. In the rest of our cases, it's eating things probably that we don't normally eat and overeating. And I think one of the things that you touched on a minute ago, Vinnie, is you have that double-edged support system.
Right.
And the thing I've been thinking about is if you don't have that and it just comes down to pure willpower, is there a way that you can plan your holidays to still have some life into living? And this came out of a conversation I had with my mom the other day because I'm flying home probably this weekend for a week. I'm not going to be there for Christmas, but I'll be there the week before. My family does Christmas typically the weekend before because everybody's everywhere and it's my grandfather's birthday, so it's a nice excuse.
Right.
And of course, she's running down the list of what kind of cookies do you want? Because she makes 19 different kinds of Christmas cookies. And when are we going to do monkey bread? Are you familiar with monkey bread, Vinnie?
I've heard of monkey bread. People talk about the monkey bread, but it's not a thing for us.
So think the best version possible of a cinnamon roll, right? Okay. So it's balls of bread that you bake and it's cinnamon, sugar, and butter, right? Like literally nothing wrong with that. And that's a typical Christmas Day thing. And I said, look, let's do one of those things. I don't need cookies and monkey bread and this and that. And so I guess the question is that the easiest way to kind of avoid some of those traps? Just to say, look, we don't have to do the Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving. We don't have to do Norman Rockwell Christmas. We can still have the stuffing balls on Thanksgiving, or we can still have monkey bread on Christmas Day if that's what we want to do. But let's maybe not make 40 kinds of Christmas cookies this year because in reality, 3/4 of them are going to end up in the freezer and no one's going to eat them anyway. Is that a valid way of getting around that temptation?
I think it is. When Serena and I really did Christmas when Tallulah was young and we were living in LA, we didn't have Tallulah might want to bake with her mom on around Christmas time, and they would make something, right? So that was around for a minute. I know what it was. It was mince pies. Mince pies are basically, for the rest of the world, raisins in a little tiny cup. a little, pastry cup, and it's cooked
Right.
down.
So sugar turds covered in flour and butter.
Right. And they're delicious. But they would make the mince pies. That was their thing. And it was just one thing. Growing up, there were, Italians, right? There were the cannolis. And then there was the fig cookies, made from all of this made from scratch, by the way. And just a few other things, right? Fudge. Fudge is basically sugar. It's sugar. It's caramelized sugar. It's just a chunk of caramelized sugar. All of this stuff, Christmas fudge is what we called it, right? My mom made both chocolatey kind and peanut buttered kind. And it was just, your teeth would hurt. It was so sweet. And they would do that thing with the dates, the dates with, they would like wrap like a pastry around dates and cook it.
Which, like, dates are good enough on their own, but if you
Yeah.
wrap it in flour and butter, of course it's going to be better.
Yeah, it makes the date better. Of course, you got to get the ones without the seed in it, right? So there was all of that. So we don't do all of that. Serena will make a Christmas pudding, as she calls it. So there'll be one, at the Christmas dinner, there'll be a Christmas, and it's usually a pavlova. Do you know what that is? It's
I think so.
it's a bunch of fresh fruit, generally strawberries and maybe blueberries and maybe raspberries. There's no glaze on it. It's just the fresh berries. And then she makes a big meringue and she puts the
And it sits
berries
on top. Yeah.
on top of the meringue. Of course, the meringue has sugar in it. And then she puts whipped cream, homemade whipped cream with no sugar in it, on top of that. So our Christmas pudding, as they call it, is not that sweet unless you eat the meringue. So you see, while everyone else at the table is enjoying all of the meringue and everything else, I'm just getting the berries and the cream, right? And might be a little piece of meringue in there just to go, okay, it's Christmas, but you're not sitting there hammering a fucking pecan pie, right? And when the pavlova and whatever's left over, it goes in the fridge. You have fresh berries and cream for the next day or two, right? So we cheat that way of not getting too much sugar in, if that makes sense.
It does. And I'm laughing over here because I need to pull this up. Um, so I'll show this to you here, Vin, and then we can kind of read it to people. So
Okay.
we've talked about my mother, love her to death. Is one of the most organized people on the planet, right? But for something like Christmas, we'll literally have a menu of everything that is available, right? And are
Wow.
you able to see and read this? So this is from 2021. I just happen to have a photo
I
of
do
this
see
in my.
that it's kind of decorated. It's Santa Claus and some, stuff around. It's a homemade menu. Okay, he's bringing it up. So it says
So
limoncello,
the
cranberry.
first the
Oh,
first
wow.
chunk here is appetizers, and then main course, and then dessert. Right? So this is
Wow.
Christmas Eve. This is not Christmas morning. There's a separate menu for Christmas morning. But looking through here, and I have a feeling a lot of people's Christmases are like this, right? There are typically two cocktails, not just one. So there's in this case, she did a limoncello cranberry spritzer and then something with whiskey, usually, but some sort of Christmassy rim on the drink or something like that. Pigs in a blanket or what she calls meatball bubble biscuits, which
Mm-hmm.
is meatballs, mozzarella cheese wrapped in pizza dough and baked,
Right.
right? Pretzels, crackers, grapes, cheese, bologna, shrimp corn dip, which is shrimp, cheese, corn, all of that stuff,
That
right?
sounds delicious. Yeah.
Then the main meal,
Oh
right?
God.
Steamed shrimp, cocktail sauce or avocado crema, both, seafood macaroni and cheese. We're not Italian, but apparently we have the Feast of the Seven Fishes. Broccoli salad with apple, walnuts, cranberries, spinach balls, and more meatball bubble biscuits. She moved those down from the appetizer. And then dessert, hot chocolate, peppermint schnapps, and Christmas cookies. And the reason it just says cookies is because there's literally 13 different kinds of cookies. And if this is what your Christmas looks like, it's going to be really hard to avoid some of those things. Now, if we look at the main meal, not that bad, right? If you don't want the mac and cheese, you can probably avoid that. But the entire dessert portion of this is nothing but sugar, right? And most of the appetizer is nothing but sugar. Yeah, there's, some bologna and some of those kinds of things that you could dive into. Usually it's deer bologna, right? If my brother gets a deer between Thanksgiving and Christmas, they'll have it processed and have some of that. But you don't need to do this. Like, it's a lot of food, and they literally will eat this for a week and a half because there's that
Oh, of
many
course. Yeah, it's got to
leftovers.
be. I mean, it's just see, we don't do that. We just do the one meal, and again, it's going to be like a rib roast or whatever. We're not big drinkers around here. Serena doesn't drink at all, and my drinking is down to almost teetotaler. Again, I'm just not into drinking anymore at all. I used to have a scotch here and there. It's not doing it for me. Whenever we have small mixers over the Christmas, having people come over, to see people around the holidays. And I always make sure I have a couple of good bottles of red, a couple of good bottles of white for, dinner if we're having dinner, or just as a cocktail. We also have, a fridge with a bunch of different beers in them. And I'm always told you got to get rid of those and replace them because I don't drink them, and apparently beer goes bad. And so there's that. And I'll offer a cocktail as long as it's something simple, right? I always have vodka, although that vodka, the same vodka I have now is the vodka that I bought when I moved into this house. It's still in the freezer. Uh, You know, I have a few scotches and some different whiskeys and bourbons. So yeah, if you want a Manhattan, I can pull it together. If you want an old fashioned, I can pull it together. But I'm hoping you're telling me you just want the alcohol on the rocks without all the fanfare, because I just don't. I'm not a good bartender. I don't really know how to make anything else, and that's it. If you don't want that, then don't drink or go make it yourself. All the stuff is in there, right? I'm not a martini guy. I have the shakers and all that. I just don't know what the fuck I'm doing, right? So why do it? Um, so yeah, there's not much drinking that goes on. There's not much holiday dessert going on. So it's just the meals, and we tend to do okay. Chris, I don't want to keep you forever because we have VIP group tonight that we have to get going on. But I want to say that we did this Friday show, this Friday call-in show. And man, the feedback, I know you've been seeing the feedback as well as I have. The feedback has been tremendous. I've gotten a bunch of emails. This woman, Amy Hinkle, wrote to me, who's been a big fan for a long time. And she said, please keep those coming. But, I think we got a couple of hundred people writing into us saying, please keep those coming. And the reason Amy wrote to me, she was like, I love Natalie Shamp's story because I'm also an older woman and I'm interested in keeping muscle on. So, we have a lot of females, over half of my listenership is all female or all female, I guess. And they're interested in keeping some muscle on because the more muscle you carry into old age, the better. So you and I will really work on, getting those weightlifting programs enacted in the new year. I know, you and I have been crazy busy with the vitamin companies and all that. So as soon as we have all that straight, we're going to go headlong into pulling together those weightlifting routines. Now, that being said, Chris, 2 seconds. I don't want to get into a diatribe about this. Give us an update on the vitamins.
Theoretically, as of the time that this episode is live, magnesium has been picked up and is on the way to our warehouse. B12 is at the warehouse and will start shipping within the next few days. And D has either been picked up or is being picked up as we speak. again, that assumes between now and the time that this airs in a few days that nothing goes wrong with testing, any of those kinds of things. But the good news is B12 is done. We have our hands on that. Magnesium and D, we expect within the next day or two to be on the way to the warehouse. Typically, it's about a week after that when they actually start to ship, because it has to get in their hands and then it has to get checked in so that they can then check it back out. So at least in theory, everything is moving in the right direction. And by this time next week, everything should be on its way to people, which I have to say, I mean, that might be my Christmas miracle this year.
Yeah.
That we got everything just in time.
It has been a long haul, and we're starting to see light at the end of that tunnel, and we really appreciate everyone sticking with us. Folks, you know what to do. We all go shopping on Amazon. It's the Christmas season. You're going to be buying a lot of stuff on Amazon. Before you go there, go to VinnieTortorich.com. Click through the banner. It puts coal on the fire, gets my train down the track. VIP is not open right now, but they could go on and put their name on the list, right, Chris?
VinnieTortorich.com/VIP. If it is open when you're listening to this, it'll take you right to a place where you can join. If it's not, it will take you to a waitlist page that tells you, hey, just drop us a line, drop us your email, and as soon as it's open again, we'll let you know.
Yeah. So you can be part of the VIP group. People get a lot out of it. We're doing another one here tonight, live in just a few minutes. So you can go check that out. Also, we have, rate and review this podcast. And Anna Vocino's book, Eat Happy Italian, is out there. Of course, that's on Amazon. You can go through VinnieTortorich.com to get that. So on behalf of Chris Shaffer, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living, and let's do it with just a little bit more of the boys from REO.